Hi, Carolyn. First, here's what happened in Carolyn Talks podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. One of the things that I think is really interesting about this season, especially the episode that we're discussing, is the concept of ownership. And this is a question I'm going to address to everyone because for each of the characters, the concept of ownership is different. For Malik, it's about him wanting to fit into the club of being an owner of his own football team, especially as a black man, and the significance of that. And for Tasha, she's talking about her brand, owning her brand, even with the controversy of her news of her new client using the N-word and what that means for her as an owner of a brand and being an agent. And then also for Jameson, there's like him owning his path as a footballer, like what's next for him and not letting people dictate where they think he needs to go. And Brittany, she's interesting because she's working with Tasha, this woman this very strong black woman who knows who she is and knows what she wants, but Brittany wants to have her own say, and she wants to put forth her own ideas, and she's trying to make her own space. So, for all of you, Devon included, just talk about what the concept of ownership means for all of your characters, and for you personally as performers doing these roles and also working in the industry and getting these stories up.
Wow. Who's gonna start? I know, it's like, huh?
I'll start in general by saying, first of all, thank you for catching the theme. Like we try so hard to bury them and not let them shine, but they're so intricate into what we do and how we build storylines. Every story has a theme. And if you look at this one, we do themes and motifs throughout everything. Like the motifs of this one was Black images. You'll see, Garrett was reading a book called The N-Word. There were Black images out. The Uncle Ben's rice was behind Jameson inside. Like if you look at the grease that's on the counter that Tasha's using to do the hair, the folded hands of Carlos in the '68 Olympics, was there. Like so first of all, I just like to say thank you for recognizing that, and I hope what we're doing it allows us to build that. But ownership is really big in what we're doing now in this day and time. This is one of the few moments in history that African Americans post, Civil War, post Reconstruction, especially in entertainment, have an opportunity to have ownership in a real intrinsic way. And ownership was a theme throughout this year, a theme throughout these episodes, and especially in this episode that we tied into. I'll be quiet and go off of that. Just as a writer and a nerd, I'm just like, yo, somebody got it. That's awesome. So thank you for that.
I'll go next. That's really refreshing to see that you actually did see it, as Devon said, the theme. One of the synergies that I knew from the very beginning of coming into this season was that not only was Hosea's personal journey about ownership of a baby that I'd helped nurse from the very first frame in 2006 to now. So I knew that I would have to come into this assuming full ownership of it. And what ownership is just responsibility in some way. And it's interesting that all the new players that come in, they have to have ownership too, because this is now their baby too. So they have to come in and, assert their ownership in this. And so the theme, not only the theme worked and played for all of us behind the scenes, as we came into this as artists, coming into a new experience, having to take up ownership, because this inclination of the show demanded that everybody that come in take up ownership. And then Devon had the biggest responsibility of all in ownership, coming in. So yeah, it's a thing behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. And I think for me, I was really fortunate to be able to use what I was experiencing with a lot of new people and a lot of older people that I'd known for years. So I'm really fortunate to be able to use my real life as an artist to inspire and influence my life as an artist. So thank you, Devon, for that, that synergy.
Wow. I'll dive in. For me, ownership is accountability. And I feel like diving in, what's interesting, and I'm going to talk about Tasha, before it was Tasha Mac Management. And then the one thing that was pointed out by Devon, he was like, there really aren't managers in sports. It was like, oh, okay. So accountability, I'm an agent. So yeah, it's that shift. So, and being an agent and having the careers of, these high profile athletes and, all of that at my helm and at my, at my fingertips. You know, it's taking accountability for that, but it's also the accountability of owning who I am as a Black woman, you know, and being a mom, being a wife, trying to juggle it all. Can I have it all? Well, can you really? I don't know. And if at what cost do I have it? It's also the ownership, you know, it really sheds a light on the NFL. I've been watching, and I don't want to deflect, but I'm late and behind on Callin in Black and White on Netflix, and it really shows the spotlight on the NFL. And there are no Black owners, you know, in sports, you know, which is sad. When you look at all of the Black athletes, where are we? Where is this ownership? And why is it so difficult to get into those positions? So I really love the relationship that Tasha has now with the owner, played so wonderfully by Tim Daly. But I love that relationship because it shows the ownership. It shows us still trying to get there, the conflict, the internal struggle, why Malik can't be an owner. It's not about money. It's definitely not about the money. So I love the dichotomy of not only owning who we are as characters, actors, but really showing the ownership and the lack thereof, diversity and ownership in football and, you know, the whole sports world in general. So that's a very, that's a broad question. So I hope I danced around it a good way.
For me, ownership, there's many levels to it because, as we know, Brittany's been played by several other actors prior to me. So I had to take ownership of this character, and I had to do it with respect to what others had previously done. So there was just a journey of making sure that I knew her nuances, I knew her backstory, because she was so well established previously, but also there was a great way that Devon and the writers wrote it, where that she was able to be established in a new light as she's an adult now. And that's also a part of her journey as Brittany is, she's finding ownership of her life, taking accountability, as Tasha said, for her life and her actions. And she's stepping into the person that she truly is outside of being Jason Pitts and Kelly Pitts' daughter. So ownership was a really big, forceful, impactful thing for Brittany and for me personally to go through in response to this role. And I think also for the show, us as the talent, we're taking ownership on the stories that we're telling that are so relatable to what is happening today, so relatable to the things that are going on in the world. And for us to be these characters that are somebody that someone relates to, or somebody that somebody remembers from one of these pasts, is just a part of the history that is being made in the world. We're up here performing them, and we have to take ownership of being truly real and relatable and as authentic as possible as these characters and that are based on true life people. So ownership was a really big thing for Brittany, me, and I think for the show overall.
I would say that for me, for ownership, you know, it's interesting because Hosea and Wendy, they've had 9 seasons prior. And then for Adriyan with Brittany, you know, like she just mentioned, there were other actresses who have come in and done this, and now she had a chance to recreate Brittany Pitts for what she wanted her to be. For me, I was like, is Jameson based off of anybody prior? Is this somebody, you know, that's totally new, or is this somebody that's pulling from other characters before? And I was very happy to have the pleasure to create Jameson and really own every nuance of him, every intricate detail of him from start to finish. So that's what ownership looked like for me when it came to this role, and owning the work, owning the character, and being able to bring something totally new to a legacy that is the game. And I would say for Jameson, you know, the concept of ownership, having everything taken away from him and then starting from scratch again, I would say it's an interesting thing when you really don't feel like you can own anything outside of yourself, except for your actions, except for how you respond to things, except for how you respond to people. So, you know, I have, Jameson has a lot to owe to Malik, Tasha, and Brittany, because they really kind of like set up his road to success.
However, there are traps along the way that come up, and he only thing he can own is himself. How he responds to these comments that people make, how he responds to the situations that come up. As you can see, he has a temper sometimes, so he doesn't always respond the best way. But the image now that he can create for himself is going to be based off of how he responds, how he owns with his actions, his attitude, and ultimately his work ethic that's going to get him to the next level. And I think that's a very symbolic representation of sometimes in life, all you can really own is your own actions and your own mentality, and all you really have is yourself.
Great. Thank you so much for answering the question so eloquently, I would say. And yes, Wendy, you did get the answer. You did get the answer.
Carolyn, there's even in the title, there's an ownership element to the theme. Same whips, new change.
I caught that.
So
Ah.
all over the place.
Thank you.